My name is Celeste Hayes, and I am 27 years old. This is the story of how I was betrayed, humiliated, and abandoned by the man I loved, only to rise stronger than ever. I had dreamed of my honeymoon for years, imagining a romantic getaway filled with love and happiness. Instead, I stood there, my heart racing, unable to believe what was happening. "How dare you do this to me?" I shouted, my voice shaking with rage and disbelief. Before I could process what was happening, a sharp pain ripped through my scalp. My mother-in-law, Vivian, had grabbed a handful of my hair, yanking my head back with such force that I cried out in shock. The next moment, her fist crashed into my ear, sending a jolt of pain through my skull. "Ack!" I screamed, my hands flying to my ear as the impact left me dizzy and disoriented. "You have no place in our families," Vivian hissed, her eyes burning with contempt. "You're nothing but a worthless girl who tricked my son into marriage." I clutched my ear, my head pounding, my vision blurring with tears. I turned to my husband, Ashton, desperate for him to defend me. But he just stood there, expressionless, cold, like I meant nothing to him. Vivian smirked, tossing her perfectly styled hair over her shoulder. "Let's go," she said, turning to Ashton. "We have better things to do." And just like that, they left me there, abandoned, alone. But what they didn't know, what they never expected, was that I wasn't going to stay broken. They had no idea what was coming for them. I stood there, motionless, the pain in my ear throbbing, my scalp still stinging where Vivian had yanked my hair. My mind refused to accept the truth. My husband, the man I trusted with my heart, had just abandoned me. I had never felt so small, so humiliated. My honeymoon had turned into a nightmare, and I had no idea how to wake up from it. But how did I end up here? I met Ashton Carter during my college years in Seattle, Washington. He was everything I had ever dreamed of: charming, intelligent, and effortlessly confident. From the very beginning, he made me feel like I was the most special person in the world. We spent countless evenings studying together, laughing over coffee, dreaming about the future. Ashton wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my best friend, my safe place, my greatest love. So, when he proposed to me after 5 years of being together, I said yes without hesitation. I was ecstatic, ready to build a life with him. But there was one problem: Vivian Carter. From the moment I met her, I knew she didn't approve of me. She saw me as beneath her family's status, someone unworthy of her son. "A girl like you has nothing to offer, Ashton," she had told me coldly at our first meeting, her sharp gaze sizing me up like I was a stain on her perfect life. It didn't matter that I had a successful career in event planning or that I genuinely loved her son. To her, I was a nobody. But Ashton had always reassured me. "Don't worry about her," he'd say, squeezing my hand. "She'll come around. I love you, and that's all that matters." I believed him. I trusted him. And despite Vivian's disapproval, we got married. At first, it felt like a dream. We moved into a beautiful apartment and life seemed perfect. For a moment, I thought I had won. But the illusion didn't last. Vivian made frequent, uninvited visits. Every time she came over, she'd criticize me, her sharp words like tiny needles pricking at my skin. "You don't even know how to take care of a house properly," she'd say, running her fingers along the kitchen counters as if searching for a flaw. Or worse, "A woman's real value is measured by her wealth. Love doesn't pay the bills." No matter what I did, it was never enough. But I never expected what she had planned next. A month after our wedding, Ashton and I planned our honeymoon, a trip that was supposed to be our first real escape, just the two of us. I was beyond excited. For once, it would be just me and him. No interference. No tension. I should have known better. The night before our flight, Vivian made an unbelievable announcement. "I'm coming with you." I nearly choked on my food. I turned to Ashton, expecting him to protest, expecting him to defend me. He didn't. Instead, he let out a sigh and said, "Mom, are you sure? I mean, this is our honeymoon." Vivian simply set down her glass of wine and smirked. Of course, I'm sure. It's been so long since I traveled, and I think we'll have much more fun together as a family. As a family. Like I wasn't even part of it. I looked at Ashton, begging him with my eyes to say no. But he just nodded. I guess it'll be fine, Celeste. Let's not make a big deal out of it. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. This was supposed to be about us, not Vivian. Why was she always in our marriage? But I stayed quiet. I had spent so long trying to keep the peace that I swallowed my anger and convinced myself that maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be that bad. I was so wrong. When we arrived at our honeymoon destination, something felt off. Ashton was nervous, distracted. He kept checking his phone, barely paying attention to me. At first, I thought maybe he was just stressed, maybe his mother's presence was ruining the trip for him, too. But I was so wrong. At the airport, a woman was waiting for us. She stood tall, confident, effortlessly beautiful, the kind of woman Vivian would admire. Her elegant dress, her perfectly styled hair, her expensive designer bag, all screamed wealth and status. Vivian's eyes lit up as soon as she saw her. "Sophia, you're here," she greeted warmly, pulling her into an embrace like they were long-lost best friends. I frowned, confused. I had never heard of Sophia before. Sophia's sharp eyes flicked to me briefly before she smiled at Ashton, a smile that sent a chill down my spine. "Finally, we meet in person," she said, her voice dripping with familiarity. I turned to Ashton, my stomach tightening. "Who is she?" My voice came out shaky. Ashton froze. His jaw clenched. He wouldn't look at me. And then Vivian turned to me, her lips curling into a cruel smirk. "Celeste, meet Sophia," she said sweetly. "She's going to be Ashton's new wife." The world stopped. I stared at them, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my hands shaking. Vivian let out a mocking laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, don't act surprised. Did you really think you were going to stay in this family forever?" I turned to Ashton, my desperation bleeding into my voice. "Ashton, tell me this is a joke," I pleaded. "Tell me she's lying." But he looked away. "I'm sorry, Celeste," he muttered, avoiding my gaze. "But I don't have a choice." I couldn't breathe. "You don't have a choice?" I repeated, my voice trembling. "What does that even mean?" And that's when Vivian delivered the final blow. "It means that if he doesn't divorce you and marry Sophia, he's out of the family business. No money, no power, nothing." I staggered back. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own husband, Ashton, the man who promised to love me, protect me, stand by my side, was choosing money over me. I felt my chest tighten, the tears threatening to spill. "How could you?" I whispered, barely able to speak. "How could you do this to me, Ashton?" But before I could say another word, Vivian grabbed a fistful of my hair. I screamed as my head was yanked back, sharp pain shooting through my scalp. And then, a brutal punch to my ear. The impact exploded through my head, pain ringing through my skull. "Ack!" I cried out, stumbling back. My hands flew to my ear, a high-pitched ringing blocking out all other sounds. Vivian sneered. "Shut your mouth," she hissed. "You are nothing. You were never good enough for us." Ashton did nothing. He just stood there as his mother humiliated me, hurt me, destroyed me. Like I was nothing. And then, "Sign the divorce papers, Ashton," Vivian ordered, her voice sharp, demanding. And just like that, my husband, the man I had loved, trusted, built a life with, took the papers and signed them. Without hesitation. Without even looking at me. It was over. Sophia smirked, linking her arm with Ashton's as if she had just won some kind of twisted prize. "Come on, darling," she purred. "We have a wedding to plan." I watched, helpless, broken, discarded, as they got into the car. As they left me there, Vivian rolled down the window one last time. "There's no place for cheap girls like you in our family," she sneered. Then they drove away. I stood there, my heart ripped apart, my world completely shattered. But as the tears streamed down my face, something inside me changed. They thought they could break me. They thought they could walk away without consequences. They had no idea who they were messing with. I stood frozen, watching the car disappear into the distance, taking my husband, my marriage, and everything I thought my future would be with it. A dull ringing filled my ear where Vivian had punched me. My scalp throbbed from where she had yanked my hair. I felt numb, empty, completely alone. How did my life come to this? I had married Ashton believing he loved me, believing we would build a life together. But in the end, he chose money. I was nothing to him. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not now. I would not break. But I had nowhere to go. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone. There was only one person I could call, my younger brother, Theo. The moment he picked up, his voice was sharp with concern. Celeste? What's wrong? I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, a choked sob escaped. Celeste? His tone darkened with worry. Where are you? What happened? I inhaled shakily, forcing the words out. He left me, Theo. My voice broke. Ashton left me for someone else. Silence. Then, in a low, controlled voice, Theo asked, "Where are you?" I gave him the address, barely able to hold the phone steady. "Stay right there," he ordered. "I'm coming to get you." The call ended. For the first time since this nightmare began, I allowed a single tear to slide down my cheek. Not because I was weak, because I knew that was the last tear I would ever shed for Ashton Carter. By the time Theo arrived, I had collapsed onto a bench outside the airport, staring blankly ahead. The moment I saw him, the reality of what had happened crashed down on me. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the humiliation of being thrown away so easily. Theo crouched in front of me, gripping my shoulders. "Tell me everything." Through my sobs, I told him everything. How Vivian had orchestrated everything. How she had found a wealthy businesswoman for Ashton to marry. How Ashton had signed the divorce papers in front of me. How they had left me standing there, completely alone. Theo's jaw clenched as he listened, his hands tightening into fists. "That bastard," he growled. "That absolute bastard." I wiped my face, my voice hollow. "What am I supposed to do now?" I whispered. "He destroyed me, Theo. He took everything from me and walked away like I was nothing." Theo took a deep breath, his expression dangerously calm. "You're not going to sit here and cry. That's for sure." His eyes burned with determination. "You're going to fight back." I frowned. "Fight back? How?" Theo's gaze darkened. "We're going to find out everything about Vivian, Sophia, and Ashton. There's no way they're as perfect as they pretend to be. You think a woman like Sophia just magically appears, and Vivian suddenly decides she's the perfect daughter-in-law? Something doesn't add up." For the first time since this nightmare began, a spark of hope ignited inside me. He was right. Vivian had planned this too perfectly. There had to be something, some weakness, some secret, and we were going to find it. Theo didn't waste a second. The moment we got to his apartment, he was already on his laptop, making calls, pulling every string he had. "I know a guy," he muttered, scrolling through his contacts. "A private investigator I worked with on a case last year. If there's dirt on Vivian, Sophia, or Ashton, he'll find it." I sat on the couch, still numb, my body running on autopilot. How had my life fallen apart so quickly? Just days ago, I had been planning a honeymoon with my husband. Now I was sitting in my brother's apartment, plotting revenge. But I wasn't the same Celeste anymore. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't going to cry over Ashton. Not anymore. I was going to make them pay. Within an hour, the private investigator, Damon Wade, was on the case. "I'll dig into Vivian's business, Sophia's past, and Ashton's finances," Damon said over the phone. "Give me a week." A week. For 7 days, I waited. I didn't eat much. I didn't sleep. My mind was too restless, too angry, too focused on what was coming. Theo stayed with me the entire time, making sure I didn't fall apart. "You okay?" he asked one night as we sat in the living room. I stared at my tea, my expression blank. "I will be," I said. "Once I destroy them." Theo smirked. "That's my girl." On the seventh day, Damon called.
You're going to want to hear this.
Theo and I met him at a quiet diner on the outskirts of town. Damon slid a thick folder across the table. I opened it, and my breath caught in my throat. Vivian wasn't just running a business. She was running an empire built on fraud, illegal dealings, and smuggling. Sophia? She was involved, too. Her entire fortune was tied to dirty money. But the most shocking part? Ashton knew everything. He had been helping them cover up their crimes for years. I felt my hands shake as I flipped through the evidence. "He was involved this whole time," I whispered. Theo nodded grimly. That's why Vivian was so confident. She knew Ashton wouldn't refuse her, because he was already deep in it. If he stepped out of line, she could destroy him, too. A slow, cold anger settled inside me. All those years, I thought I was building a future with a good man. Instead, I had been living with a liar. Theo leaned forward. "Celeste, it's time we take this to the authorities." I stared at the documents, my heart pounding. This was it.
My chance to make them pay.
I took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's do it." Theo wasted no time. The moment I gave the go-ahead, he contacted his trusted legal connections and provided the police with all the evidence Damon had uncovered. By the end of the day, a plan was in motion. The authorities set up a raid to catch Vivian, Sophia, and Ashton red-handed. Their illegal business dealings were tracked to a warehouse outside the city, where they met with their criminal partners. "Once they're inside, we move in," one of the officers explained to me. I nodded, gripping the steaming coffee cup in my hands, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I was determined. Vivian had stolen my husband. Sophia had taken my place. Ashton had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And now they were about to face the consequences. I stood beside Theo in an unmarked car, parked at a safe distance from the warehouse. It was a cold, quiet morning. The air was tense. Then, a sleek black car pulled up to the warehouse entrance. Even from a distance, I could recognize the figures stepping out.
Vivian.
Sophia. Ashton. Sophia walked ahead confidently, her expensive heels clicking against the pavement, while Vivian whispered something to her. Ashton trailed behind them, looking anxious. Theo muttered beside me, "They have no idea what's coming." I watched as they entered the warehouse, the metal doors slamming shut behind them. 3 minutes later, it began. A sudden explosion of sirens. Dozens of officers stormed the warehouse from every entrance, shouting commands. Through the surveillance footage on the monitor inside the police van, I saw it all. Vivian's eyes widened in shock. Sophia froze in place. Ashton looked around in a panic, realizing they were trapped. They tried to argue, but it was useless. Handcuffs clicked around their wrists within seconds. Sophia screamed in protest. Vivian's face twisted in rage. Ashton? He just looked terrified. For the first time since he betrayed me, I saw real fear in his eyes. And I felt nothing but satisfaction. Hours later, I was sitting in the police station when an officer approached me. "Would you like to speak with them before the trial?" I hesitated, but then I nodded.
I wanted to look them in the eyes one last time.
Theo gave me a warning look. "Don't let them get to you." I took a deep breath before stepping into the holding cell area. Ashton stood up immediately when he saw me. His expression? Desperate. "Celeste, you did this," he shouted. I crossed my arms. My voice was steady. "No, Ashton. You did this to yourself." His face twisted in frustration. "You don't understand. Vivian forced me into everything. I had no choice." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "No choice." I repeated. "That's funny. Because I remember you having a choice the day you signed our divorce papers and left me standing alone." He flinched. I took a step closer, my voice lowering. "You weren't just a coward, Ashton. You sold your soul for money. And now you're paying the price." His hands shook. "I can fix this," he whispered. "We can start over."
Please, Celeste.
"You don't understand what's going to happen to me in here." I stared at him, feeling nothing but disgust. You should have thought about that before you ruined my life. I turned to leave, but before I walked out, I looked over my shoulder one last time. Good luck, Ashton, I said, my lips curling into a smirk. You're going to need it. And then I walked away. The day of the trial arrived faster than I expected. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, former business associates, and people who had once admired Vivian's empire now sat in silent anticipation, waiting to watch it all fall apart. I sat beside Theo, my hands clenched into fists as the charges were read.
Fraud.
Money laundering. Conspiracy. One by one, the evidence was presented. Bank records showing millions in illegal transactions. Intercepted messages proving that Vivian had orchestrated everything. Surveillance footage of the warehouse where they ran their fraudulent operations. There was no way out. I watched Ashton carefully. At first, he sat stiffly, trying to keep up his usual composure. But as the evidence piled up, I saw it. The panic. His face paled when the prosecution revealed just how deep he was involved. The final moment came when the judge spoke, his voice booming through the courtroom. The defendants are found guilty on all charges. A loud murmur filled the room as the verdict sank in. I turned my head, locking eyes with Ashton. His gaze was pleading. Celeste, please, he mouthed silently, as if I could save him. I simply smiled. Tit for tat, Ashton. Vivian's face was red with fury. Sophia's arrogance had completely disappeared. She looked like a cornered animal. And then, the final sentences were announced. Vivian, 20 years in prison for masterminding the fraud. Sophia, 15 years for her active role in money laundering. Ashton, 12 years, a fate he never saw coming. There was no appeal. No escape. No more power. No more wealth. Just consequences. As I stepped out of the courthouse, a wave of relief washed over me. It was over. The people who had betrayed me, humiliated me, and left me broken were finally facing the punishment they deserved. Theo walked beside me, hands in his pockets, watching my face carefully. How do you feel? He asked. I let out a slow breath. Free. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. No more heartbreak. No more looking over my shoulder. No more feeling like I wasn't enough. I had spent so much time wondering if I had made a mistake marrying Ashton, if I could have done something differently. But standing here, watching him be led away in handcuffs, I realized something important. I was never the problem. Vivian had always hated me. Ashton had always been weak. Sophia had been waiting for an opportunity. They had destroyed themselves. I had only helped reveal the truth. Theo pulled out his phone, a smirk on his lips. Come on. We need to celebrate. Where do you want to go? I laughed, the first real laugh in what felt like forever. Anywhere that serves strong drinks and good food. That night, we sat in a warm restaurant, drinking and laughing, talking about everything except the past. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about Ashton. I wasn't thinking about Vivian, Sophia, or the betrayal. I was thinking about the future. My future. Weeks passed. Life slowly fell into place. I moved into my own apartment, a place that belonged to me and no one else. I started focusing on my career again, rebuilding the dreams that had been put on hold because of my marriage. Ashton had once told me that I was nothing without him. But the truth was, I was better without him. Every now and then, I'd hear updates about Ashton. He was struggling in prison, cut off from the luxury he had once enjoyed. His old business partners had turned against him. With Vivian and Sophia locked up, he had no one left to protect him. Theo and I would hear rumors. How he begged former friends for help. How he regretted everything. How he wished he had never left me. But I didn't care. I had wasted enough time caring about Ashton Carter. Then one evening, as I was leaving work, my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated before answering. Hello. There was silence. Then, a voice I hadn't heard in months. Celeste, it's me. I stopped walking. The voice was hoarse, weaker than I remembered. But I knew exactly who it was. Ashton. I clenched my jaw. What do you want? I asked coldly. There was a long pause. I just, I just wanted to hear your voice, he admitted. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. A strange mix of emotions hit me. Anger,
Pity.
disbelief. He sounded broken. But I wasn't the same woman he had abandoned. I wasn't the same woman who had begged him not to leave. I had no more tears for him. It's too late for that, Ashton. He sighed. And for the first time I could hear it. Regret. I lost everything, Celeste. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tightly. You lost me, I said, my voice calm. And that should have been enough to stop you from making the choices you did.
He didn't respond.
He knew it was true. After a long silence, he finally whispered, Do you think we could ever fix this? I almost laughed. Fix this? After everything? I shook my head. No, Ashton. We're beyond fixing. Before he could say anything else, I hung up. And just like that, I closed the last door to my past. From that day forward, I never looked back. I had survived. I had won.
And now,
I was finally free. Thank you for reading this incredible journey of betrayal, strength, and revenge. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like this post to show your support. Comment below your thoughts. What would you have done in Celeste's place? Subscribe for more powerful and engaging stories. Your support means everything. Stay tuned for more thrilling stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.